All right, Algebra 1, we're going to finish up our 2-3 notes here with 2-3b. And basically what we're doing is we're combining our greatest common factor with factoring trinomials that we did in 2-3a in those two separate parts. So let's just refresh our memory here on the factoring trinomial. So remember, what we're going to do is we're going to take this last number, we're going to make a table, and we want to see what two numbers will multiply to give us negative 44 and add to give us 7. Okay, so we're going to make up a table that looks like that. Multiply to give us negative 44, add to give us 7. Run through a couple of factors and see what you get here, but basically you'll see that negative 4 times 11 is negative 44. Negative 4 plus 11 is 7. So those are the two factors that are the answer. So the way that we write this, x minus 4, x plus 11, that is your final answer. And again, that's just a recap of what we did in the 2-3a part 2 notes. So again, we're looking for numbers that multiply to give us the last number and add to give us the middle number. Now, on the new notes, you already know from what I was just saying that we have a GCF. But one thing that you can always do is if you try this, try to find some numbers that will multiply to give you negative 20 and add to give you negative 6, you won't find any, okay? So that's kind of one of the indicators that something else needs to be done here. So first of all, we notice that all of these are divisible by 2. But we cannot take an x out because you see the 20 does not have an x here, right? So we can't take an x out. All we can do is take out a 2. Okay, so what are we left with? X squared minus 6 divided by 2 is 3x minus 20 divided by 2 is 10. And now we can make up our table and we say we need two numbers that will multiply to give us negative 10 and add to give us negative 3. So negative 10 only has two sets of factors. It's either 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. So we know that this is going to be a negative 5 times 2. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Negative 5 plus 2 gives us our negative 3. Now, these factors are part of the answer for the stuff that's in the parentheses, right? X minus 5 and x plus 2. That just takes care of this part here. But we still have this 2 out front. That is still part of our answer, so we don't want to leave that behind. We don't want to forget about it. Okay, that 2 is still part of our answer, so that is what your final answer should look like. All right, let's try the next one. If you feel pretty comfortable with these after seeing one example, go ahead and try it, and you can pause the video and try it and then come back, see if you have the correct answer. If not, you could just walk through it with me here because I'm going to do this whole problem. So example B, first of all, we could take a 4 out, so we divide 4 by everything. I'm left with x squared plus 24 divided by 4 is 6x plus 32 divided by 4 is 8. So I need to do my table. Feel free to pause and catch up at any time. But I'm going to do my table. I need two numbers that multiply to give me 8 and add to give me 6. Again, 8 only has two sets of factors, just 1 and 8 or 2 and 4, so it's going to be 2 times 4. 2 plus 4 gives us 6. So there's our two factors. So again, we're going to bring the 4 down, and then x plus 2, x plus 4. That is your final answer for this one, okay? C. I have this one done for you. The only difference here is, first of all, we will divide a 5 out of everything. These are all divisible by 5. But you can see that each of these terms has an x. So we can take an x out with our GCF as well. So divide a 5x out. We've already done the GCF stuff, so hopefully you're keeping up with this and following through and doing all your notes, because otherwise you're going to be even further behind, like I've been saying. So divide a 5 out. There's a 1 here. We started with x to the third, which meant we had 3 copies of x. We took 1 out. That means we're left with 2. 5 divided by 5 again is 1. We started with x squared. We took 1x out. We're still left with an x. And then minus 30 divided by 5 is 6. We started with an x, and we took that x out. So now I'm doing my table. I'm trying to find two numbers that multiply to give me negative 6 and add to give me a 1. Remember, there's a 1 in there. So here's what my table looks like. And again, 6 has two sets of factors, 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. So I'm using negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Negative 2 plus 3 gives me 1. And again, you may need to run through a couple factors there until you get that answer, but eventually you'll get there. So here's my final answer. 5x still out front. That is my final GCF. That is part of my final answer. X minus 2, x plus 3 from the minus 2 here and the positive 3 there. So that is your final answer. Next one, D. Again, we have a 0.5 that we can't have here. We need to have a 1 in front of this x squared. So we have to divide out 0.5. So divide everything by a half. So take the 0.5 out. We're left with x squared. Now we're not multiplying by a half. It's not 4 times a half to get 2. We're going to take 4 divided by 0.5 or 4 divided by 1/2 to get 8. Okay, and then 6 divided by 0.5, you can do that on your calculator. 6 divided by 0.5 gives you 12. Okay, so let me show you the rest of the answer here. First of all, I started with my table, so let's look over here at the table. 12, two numbers that multiply to give me 12, and add to give me 8, so 2 times 6 is 12. 2 plus 6 gives me 8, so there's my two factors. Still have the 0.5 out front, 0.5 right here. But then x plus 2, positive 2, x plus 6, positive 6. Final answer for example D. Last one, I'll do this one with you here. We're going to start with our GCF, and again, hopefully you recognize that every term has an x, so an x can be taken out in addition to that -7. So take out a -7. And another thing you want to keep in mind is right now, the only kind of factoring you know how to do right now for trinomials is when this first term is an x squared. So really what you should be asking yourself is what is keeping that first term from being an x squared, and that is what needs to be divided out. So if you look at this, -7x to the third, what's keeping that from being an x squared is a -7x. So that's another way to look at it, and maybe an easier way for some of you to see that. 21 divided by -7 is -3. And again, I started with x squared, which is 2 x's. I took one out, so I'm still left with 1. 280 divided by -7 is a -40. Started with an x, took that x out, no x's left. So here we go, we're going to take our table. I need two numbers that multiply to give me -40 and add to give me a -3. So pause the video, see if you can get the two factors that multiply to give you -40 and add to give you -3. Okay, multiply to give you this. That kind of looks like an x. Let me fix that. Multiply to give me this, and add to give me this. So go ahead, pause the video, see if you can get it. All right, so the final answer, -8 plus, that shouldn't be a plus, that should be a times. -8 times 5 gives me -40. -8 plus 5 gives me -3. Okay? So again, for my final answer, I have x minus 8, I have x plus 5, but I still have this term here that needs to be brought down out front, -7x. And there is your final answer for example E. Okay, so again, if you need to pause or rewind any of those, feel free to do that. Let me know if you have any questions. Send me an email, private comment. Just let me know if you have any questions at all about these. We will continue doing more stuff with our factoring, so it's very important that you know how to do this factoring, otherwise the next section will be even more difficult. So please make sure that if you're unsure about anything, please make sure that you're letting me know, okay?